Hello everybody, Vigo's Apprentice here, and yes, it is a late video on this one, but I'm finally getting around to it because this one is a very extensive project because we have 4 event characters on the Swimsuit Selection Summon, and they have an exchange system here as well. But each one of these is a revival from the June and July banners, I believe. But I will be going over each and every one of these characters because there's all possibilities. But I think the best thing to consider on this banner is that if you do have enough 56,000 gems, with this exchange system, you are able to pick which one you want, whether it be Ocean Temptation Beta, Epsilon, Claire, or Alexia. Now, I like this in general just because you're able to physically pick the one if you do have the chance to pity it. So, summoning multiple times on this banner and getting a bunch of different characters, if you're lucky that is not a bad idea. Usually we have banners with just, it's that character, you can only get that character, just like this master, like for example, the Master Shadow banner. The best character you can get on there, of course, is just the Master Shadow, and that's it. The rest are just regular character pool. Whereas Ocean Temptation, like all these 4 at the top, they're all in this banner, which makes it a better banner to pull. The reason why I've been slacking on this banner specifically is because there are obviously better options with the banners currently. We had 2 Shadow Festival banners back to back. So we had the Master Shadow and Awakening Hour Shadow from Shadow Festival. Those banners are just way better to pull than this banner. So this banner kind of just came and snuck up on me and I overlooked it, but I will be going over each one of these to let you know which one's good and kind of which one's not. So yeah. Alright, so the first one I'll be going over is the Perfect Angle Epsilon. Right off the bat we have a red tank unit. So her ultimate is Shiny Memory, and what this does is it shields damage already right off the bat, like that there's a shield. It's 150% of the skill user's attack, and it's on all allies for 15 seconds. Anytime there's a shield on all allies is just really, really good. And not only that, she's also further raising the attack by 10% if it's 7 shadows, so you're going to have to take consideration into how you're pairing her on teams. But that's really good, having damage and giving them a buff on attack. Really, really good. And the Awakening on that just boosts 5% on the attack and then 50% on the shield. Just a little bit more on the shield. But still noteworthy because shield is shield. You get it when you can. And then not only that, she also has another shield on top of it. It shields damage 100% of the skills of a red elemental allies behind self. So if you got red elemental, they're also getting another shield on top of it. So the ultimate gives everybody a shield regardless of the element, and then this one gives another shield for red elementals and raises the own defense by 30% for 10 seconds. So this is obviously a 2-in-1 skill ability. Really good. Really good to have 2 shield moves right back to back as a tank. Very good. Awakened, it changes the 30 to 40 and then 50%. Like I said, shield to shield. Then she has a stun move, which inflicts 100% on a single enemy. Further inflicts stun for 3 seconds. I think stun is really good as a status effect to give to other players, and especially arena. So, because you're potentially blocking them from, attacking. So, and it could be, you could be stunning a very good unit. So I always like stun. And then we have Perfect Angle when an enemy is stunned by an ally, so it can't be you. It inflicts 50% damage on the target enemy. Now, this skill, this isn't good at all. You would have to pair like other units that can stun and stun multiple times on, you know, at that. I could already like that. The SS Yellow Rose can stun, but that's a tank, so you'd be doing a tank on top of a tank. And then there's a couple others that I know that could stun too, but you kind of have to go out of your way for that. And the payoff is not that good. But still, having this double shield and a stun, that just kind of overshadows this last one. This last one doesn't really do a whole lot, and it's yeah. Even with the awakening, it's not really that good. But I'm gonna quickly go into stats here. Here's power to healing, healing to overheal, and the group for that one. And then let's just go to her awakening roadmap. And right off the bat, she has these shield skills, the shiny memory and the water barrier at A1 and A2. So getting her to A2, really, really good, especially for those skills. We have the perfect angle skill at A3. A3 doesn't really matter. A3 is nothing to brag about. Gear slot at the 4, and then 5 for the stun, and with additional damage. So like A2 is probably where it's at for Epsilon, and that covers her. That was like a speedy overview of perfect angle Epsilon. So I'll be moving on to the next unit then. Alright, so let's get into the Sister in Summer Claire Cogano unit, the second one in line in this video. So right off the bat, we'll check out the abilities. So with Cogano Spike, we have, you know, you raise your own attack by 45% permanent, and also raises the speed by 30% permanent. Super, super good to have the attack that high and the speed at 30%. Really, really good. But the worst downside about it is that it further inflicts seal on self for 60 seconds. Cannot be cancelled. You can't get rid of it. And then it inflicts 1,500% damage on a single enemy. Damage factor alone is pretty decent, but the biggest thing is the attack and the speed on that one. And then it goes even more with the 65 and the 50% speed. When this is awakened, it's super good. Despite the seal. The seal is pretty bad, but yeah. Then we have Rock and Serve, which inflicts the 100% damage on all enemies. Also lowers attack by 10% for 10 seconds, and another 10%. And then Awakening is just boosting it just by a little bit, and then 3 extra seconds there. Bounce and Bloom. Now this is where it gets really, really weird. So this one raises the stun resistance for all blue elemental allies by 80% for 15 seconds. And that in itself is pretty good, especially if you're facing a team that likes to do stuns, or like some bosses that do stun, which prevents you from getting the 5 combo. That's pretty good to have that. But the better part of it here is the further raises attack by 50% if for 20 seconds if Sid Cogano Blue Elemental. Now there's 2 Sid Cogano's Blue Elemental. There's the healer and then there's the attacker. If it's the attack type and it works with that specific Sid Cogano, then this is so worth it. This is very, very worth it for that extra 50%. Especially if you paired with that ultimate. If you were to do that ultimate, you'd still have this. You might, because you could seal yourself with this now. You won't be able to use Bounce and Bloom, especially if it's for 20 seconds. This becomes totally useless if you've pulled off that ult. So you're gonna have to like pay attention. So if Bounce and Bloom procs off, you're gonna have to. Then you'd want to do the Cogano Spike. You have to time this ultimate perfectly in order for everything to go right. And then Sister in Summer, if party with Sid Cogano, you do a 2-hit combo on all enemies like within 100 centimeters, so not too far. And then raises damage inflicted of self and the ally by 30%. So you're doing, and that's permanent when this kicks in. So it's just going to be active right away. and that'll stay. And then, yeah, it kind of raises a little bit. Not too much there for the Awakened. Did I check the Awakened? Yeah, this is also significant. Bounce and Bloom goes from 50 to 80. Really, really good. So, obviously you want Sister in Summer to activate on the battlefield, and then you want to wait with this Kagano Spike. As soon as Bounce and Bloom procs, and Sister and Summer have already been in effect, and you had, say, Kagano, the blue attacker, on your team, if it works with him, that's when you're going to want to pull off this Kagano Spike, and that'd probably be the best time to do it, is after this Bounce and Bloom. Otherwise, it's just wasted. If you just, like, especially if it was, like third wave, and then you just whip this out right away, there's just so much wasted potential there. But, yeah, this one can do a lot of damage, but you just have to be really strategic on how you use this Claire Kagano unit. But, anyway, on to the next one. Alright, so, before I forget, there's going to be the stats. Here's the stats, going from power to healing, and then from healing to overheal, 10% on the SP boosts, so that's nice. And here's the grouping, and this is what the Awakening roadmap looks like. So we got A1, that one's okay, not really the best. This is where it's at. A2, Bounce and Bloom. That's gonna be really good for you. This one's okay, but like, yeah, A2 is where it's at. Then A3 is the Rock and Serve. That's okay. Gear slot at the 4. Always nice to have gear slot. And then the Kagano Spike plus at A5. It would take a lot of work to get to A5, and the payout is not too much, but those percentage values are really, really good. But of course, this is tucked away at an A5, so that's just a little bit difficult to get to. Otherwise, A2 is where it's at for this Claire. But yeah, anyway, on to the next one. Okay, next one up we have Ocean Temptation Beta. Now, I'll go into this one right away. The ultimate is Ocean Twister, and what that does is it inflicts 1,200% on a single enemy with the highest attack. Always like this type of move when they're targeting the highest attack enemies. Get the worst one out of the way. And then it also inflicts 500% damage on enemies within 100 centimeters of target enemy. So, I believe, yeah, so you're also hitting the enemy with the highest attack. I'm not sure if this is stacking on to the 1,000, so 1,700% on that single enemy. But either way, if it is, then it's hitting all these enemies within 100 centimeters of that target. And then it also does a stun on top of it. A stun for an added bonus. And I always like moves that stun. And when this is awakened, it's even further. A significant increase of 600% more damage on that. So you're going to want that awakened for sure. Aqua Bullet. Now this one's a little weird one because it has this X here. But it raises damage received for single enemy by 10 plus the X. And the X is going to be the enemy's total damage received buff. So depending on how many buffs they have, I'm not sure if it's going by like the stacks of the buffs or how much percentage it is. And it might be a percentage, but yeah, it does show a percent. So how much percentage of the damage received buff are they getting? But either way, it's for 10 seconds and then it inflicts 300%. So the 300% alone is pretty good. But yeah, that's not a bad move there for Aqua Bullet. And of course, when it's awakened, it is 15 for 5 seconds longer. Not a bad one, but you know, there could be better. Summer Blessing raises defense of first ally in line by 20%. Usually a tank, so it's beefing up the tank a little bit more. That's always nice. And then further raises the attack by 20% for 13 if red. You're going to want to pair this with a red tank. So there's some pretty good red tanks, especially if you're doing something like if you have Lambda and then you have Rose, and then you're also raising the defense of Rose, which is really good, and then raising her attack, and then she's getting another attack raise by Lambda. So that would be really good to have that trio right there, just for an example. Ocean Temptation is the next one, I believe. Yeah, yep. So each time damage is inflicted, inflict stun on one random enemy for 2 seconds. Now this is going to proc all the time. This is a character that just stuns, 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 stuns. And I just love it. Because it'll stun with the ultimate, and then it will stun with this move as well. And you're always going to be inflicting damage. But there is a cooldown period of 10 seconds at least. And then on top of that, on top of the stun, it's going to raise the damage received for that random enemy by 5% for 5 seconds. When this is awakened, it's just a 10%. So this is probably the worst one. Maybe, because it does tie in the X value. But either way, that takes care of her abilities. Now let's run into the roadmap here. Here's the stats. Going from power to heal. Then going from healing to overheal, no SP boost. And then there's the grouping. Now let's check out her awakening roadmap here. First we have Ocean Twister, the ult, right away. This is a good one to have A1. Just opening with that ultimate right away is always good. Then we have that Aqua Bullet with that X value as well. So that's not too bad. Then the gear slot at A3, that's really nice. Just having the gear slot be lower, that's great. Then we have the Summer Blessing for A4. And then A5 is that stun. So, I mean, the stun alone is pretty good, so it's just the 5% increase. So that's actually okay having this at the bottom here. Because having your A3 with that magic gear slot would be really nice. And then just having your A1 with the Ocean Twister is really, really good. But all in all, this unit is not a bad red attacker. It's actually pretty decent, especially if you're going for like a character to add for stuns and stuff. She's pretty good at doing so. And then beefing up that red tank that you're going to have in line 2. That's what this character is pretty much good for. So all in all, a pretty dang good unit. Yeah, so let's move on to the last one then. Alright, and now we have our final unit here. Alexia Midgar, Elegant Curves, Blue Attacker. Alright, so let's get into our abilities right away. We have Summer Voltage. We have inflicts 2,000 damage on enemies within 100 centimeters of target enemy. Now this is a very, very good ultimate. This kind of reminds me of like the green Alexia, but it does way more damage, or just a little bit more damage, but it's also on enemies. We're not talking just a singular enemy here. We're enemies within 100 centimeters of target. So you very well could do 2,000 and another 2,000 between two enemies, making 4,000, or however. It depends on how they're bunched up and whatnot, but that in itself is just really good. And then it looks even better with 500% more damage with still the 100 centimeters of target enemy. I think this is a very good ult right off the bat. So, and it looks like we have a couple more attacking ones here. So, Pardon Me is another one. Cancels all shield effects on single enemy. Great. This is going to be good for PvP right off the bat, especially when they have those front lines shield, or when I know Sherry with their SS Plus gear now has shields on everybody, and then Awakening Hour Sid also does shields on everybody, so we're seeing more and more of shields. So if you have Alexia, you're going to be able to cancel all the shield effects, which is great for PvP. But even if it's not for PvP, it inflicts the 300% damage regardless, so it's always good to have that. And then it's just 100% more for the damage on the Awaken. Then we have Water Play, lowers defense on all enemies within 100 centimeters of the target enemy. We're seeing theme here with 100 centimeters. So if you lower the defense and then hit that ult, that'd be super good by 10%, and then it's 100% damage, and then it just increases by 5% there, and 50% more on the damage there. Not bad for that Awakening. And then now we get to Water Play, and then now we have Elegant Curves here. This one's a really good one because if it's partied with 3 or more blue elemental allies, self included, Raises own attack by 25% for 60 seconds. That's the whole round. 60 seconds. That's the whole round. That's really good. And then when it's awakened, 10% more, even better. Like, this ultimate already does quite a bit of damage already. Like, this is a pretty good attacking blue unit. So, and then of course if it's partied with 3 or more of the blue elementals, that makes this unit much better. So this is a good unit for blue teams, especially if you're wanting to go out with the damage. Let's just check our stats here. We have power through healing boost, healing through overheal, and there's the grouping there. Now let's see her awakening roadmap, which we have Pardon Me, which is the shield effects, which is not bad for an A1. Then we have A2. This is what we want. We want A2 right off the bat, and I'm glad they have the ultimate so low in the roadmap here, because that's an extra 500% damage on the enemies within 100 centimeters. That's just really good as an ultimate right there. Then we have Water Play as the A3, not bad. Magic Gear slot at the A4, that's good, and then the Elegant Curves for that extra 10% at the end. If only this was like earlier in the roadmap, that would have made it so much better, but honestly, yeah, A2 is where it's at if you're looking for the low end of things, but obviously that A5 has that extra 10% for the raise his own attack to do even more attack. But yeah, so that is all of the units for the Celebration Swimsuit Selection Summon. And yeah, so that's each one of the 4 there. I would say all of them so far are pretty good. And it says banner character rate now boosted. So, like, let's just look at the probability here of actually getting these. So that's a 0.5% on each one of them. And when I was doing the re-rolling, because I re-rolled for each one of these here, I actually had pretty consistent results on actually getting some of these characters. So it was not bad at all. So if we take it into account here, that's like, well, it's a 1% there and then a 2% there. So like 2% all, it's like a 2% chance that you're gonna get one of these at least. But let me see if I could find more on the summon details here. Let's see how much it is to get shadow probability. So yeah, that's a 0.6 on the probability for the Master Shadow. And yeah, honestly, the revival banner for the Shadow Festival is really good. But if you already have the Master Shadow or something like that, and you wanted, like, you have extra gems or you want to spend to get something like these because you you really want the swimsuit characters, I would say this banner is actually a pretty good banner for event characters. Just having 4 event characters, it's not like this one, the one we have now with Holiday Frolic Beatrix. And yeah, it's not like that because, let's see here, this one says 200% chance. I'm just kind of interested in the chances. It does say 3% chance. It's a 1.3 for to get Beatrix. Yeah, okay, yep. So this Epsilon here is actually, I think it's actually a better tank than this Holiday Frolic Beatrix. They're both red tanks in here, but if you're able to get so if we're judging all the characters on this banner, going from like best on the scale here, I would say Alexia. Alexia's got a lot of damage. The Elegant Curves Alexia right here has a lot of damage to output, and it is very, very good. I'd say at the lower end of this, at the spectrum here, we have Claire, and I only say Claire because, like, she does have a lot of potential for all her stats and stuff, but it's just having to rely on Sid Cogno and having to be very strategic on when you pull off that ult can get a little frustrating, and maybe not the best. You can make it work. I'm not saying she's a bad unit in general. It's just that it's the heavy reliance on Sig Cogno blue, or like a blue unit. So I'd say I'd put her at the lower end for this. And then Alexia is a decent red tank. I still prefer Rose. And then the Ocean Temptation beta has a pretty good ult, and then the stun factor on it is pretty good. So I'd say I put these two in like the middle between these two, but Alexia being probably the better end here for like blue unit attacker. Keep in mind that I have been on like super bad luck streaks, so it's possible to go like eight multis in and get nothing. But that's always the risk you're willing to take. Anyway, Vigo signing off.